Good morning, everybody. My name is Chuck Black, and in this video, I'm going to share with you a story about a recent painting that I've completed. Now, this video was originally intended to be a how to paint video, but things happened along the way. It didn't really work out the way that I wanted it to, and so I'm going to tell the story about what happened, how I overcame those things, and got the result that I ended up getting, and as well as why I might put myself through this situation in the first place. So with that being said, let's get the painting started. Okay, now this painting was an idea that I had for a nighttime scene. It's going to be a full moon landscape. I wanted there to be a nice blue haze in the sky. Wanted that moon to glow bright. I'm talking about what I'm doing at this point to the camera. And I wanted there to be a lot of contrast. So you can see I'm adding these nice tall ridges, and they're getting much darker as you get close to the foreground. And I'm also darkening the sky just to make that moon appear even brighter. And what I wanted to do was to have a fence line in the foreground that was going to be mainly black. And then I was going to have a white-tailed deer walking across that foreground along the fence. And I thought it would be just a really neat idea. I was very inspired to do this. So I was excited, needless to say. Now there's the contrast I talked about, that dark tree. There's the fence line was going to come out right where the tree was. Now you can see my earbuds just went in, so that means that I've begun to fast forward in my how to paint video. It's no longer real time, so that I can just focus on painting. Now here's where it started to go wrong for me. You can see I've changed the composition of the horizon. I've now put these flat ridges across. I've decided that nothing is going the way I wanted it to. The idea that I had in my mind is not at all looking like how it should on canvas. And I began to panic. So I fast forwarded it. I told the camera that I fast forwarded it because that I was going to work on the details, and then I would come back and show you the next step in the painting. But in actuality, to be honest, what happened was I fast forwarded it because I was trying to hide the fact that I didn't know what I was doing. So I fast forwarded and I began to change the composition, trying to save it, trying to figure out something that I would like. So here we go. I'm trying to open up that sky now. Those tall ridges were just looking weird to me, and that was probably the main thing that I didn't like. So I'm just trying to blend out the sky, maintain the position of the moon. I've gotten rid of that big tree, or at least I'm starting to, and I'm just working those ridges in, just trying to find that composition. And at this point, I'm starting to realize that my how to paint video is going to be very poorly done, because I've told everybody, shown everybody the steps to get to this point. And I'm going to pause it right here again. I've shown everybody what to do to get to this point, and then when I fast forward it, I completely change everything. So I knew that this was going to be a bad video. That was the first problem. The second problem was the fact that it wasn't how I envisioned it, and it got me very frustrated. And I was preparing to go on vacation into the outdoors camping trip for 2 weeks, and I had 2 days left to get ready. I had a lot of things to do outside the studio, beyond painting itself. And so I was left at this point, and I got very, very frustrated because I didn't know where I wanted to go from here. It wasn't the fact that I was where I was. It was more so I didn't know where to go. And so I ended up basically storming out of the studio. I was frustrated and I was done with it. So I left this painting sit for 2 weeks. I decided that I wasn't going to finish it before I left, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Frankly, I thought that I was going to abandon the painting and start a new one. But I went on vacation, and now this next portion is me coming back after 2 weeks away. We're just going to start playing it. Big difference. Whole bunch of gray is going in. And let's just let it play through the sky. Blend out the sky, make a nice blend. Okay, I'm going to stop it again right here. All right, I've made a drastic change. Now, what happened was, as I was away, while I was away on this vacation, I didn't think about painting. I just thought about enjoying myself in what I love most, and that is my subject matter. I always tell people I'm not so much passionate about the art, I'm passionate about what I paint, and that is the outdoors. And art is just the result of that passion coming out of me. So I spent the time away just enjoying myself. There was a full moon while I was away. I got to see a few nights of the moon rise just beautifully on the landscape. It was during harvest, so there's a lot of dust particles in the air. It creates a beautiful gray glow on the horizon, which is what that gray is what you're seeing. And so when I came back into the studio, I didn't know what I was going to do with this painting at this point, but I put the painting anyways on the canvas, on the easel, and instantly, once I put it on the easel, I just knew what I needed to do. And I hadn't thought about it up until this point, but getting outside, getting away, immersing myself in that subject matter allowed me to discover the solution, the next step in this painting, and it just became automatic for me. And so this was the result. So let's keep it playing. It just really showed me, just reaffirmed that you really do need to just get away once in a while and figure out what you love about painting and why you do what you do. And so this was the result of that. Now I'm working on just adding some kind of gray blue and painting some clouds. So I wanted there to be some clouds. So after I get the clouds set in, I'm going to be adding the moon here in just a second. I've also gotten rid of the idea of several ridges going back. There's going to be just one ridge now, I've decided. Darkening that ridge line. I still want the contrast to be there. And so here I'm adding the moon. It's using white. I stenciled the moon to get a nice round shape. I want it to be nice and round. And I also decided that it would be really cool to have a creek flowing through the landscape so that I could have a reflection of the moon, just kind of create some interesting composition. I still wanted there to be a deer and a fence line. So here's my creek, and let's pause it right there again. Now, at this point, looking back, I really love the composition about that. I could have been very happy with this. I think if I would have just kept refining the details, not getting ahead of myself, with other ideas I had, if I just stuck to this composition right here and I really tightened up everything, I think it would have been beautiful. But let's keep playing it and show you what happened. So I get some of those details I talked about, start refining it down. I'm still very happy with the composition. At this point, I remember thinking to myself, I've got it. This is it. But here's where it went wrong. I'm adding these taller trees to the right. This was at the time my idea of refining down and adding details. I thought that it would be cool to add some tall trees. Just for the fact that I could add all these little branches, and now I'm adding a taller tree there. Those little branches would be, man, I thought it would create a lot of interesting detail. Realism is what I thought it would do for me. So I'm just doing my thing. I'm going across the whole landscape. I move to the right. I'm thinking to myself, let's add some taller trees. Moving to the left. Let's add some taller trees on the left as well. Really bring out those details. I was pumped at this point. I thought I had it. But it was somewhere around right here. don't know exactly, but right here, I remember thinking to myself, and you don't see it in the time lapse because I step away and pause the video every once in a while, and I was looking at it and going, okay, something's not right. And there's the fence that I was talking about, still trying to add the fence to it. Now, let's stop it again real quick right there with the fence. I think that's very, I think compositionally it would have worked, but what happened was those trees on the right, because they're so tall, it started to weigh down the right side of the painting compositionally. And I remember thinking to myself, something's not right with this painting. And I thought it was the foreground. When I added this fence line, you're going to see that I'm going to erase this fence line in a second. I thought that, okay, it's the fence line. I don't like the fence line. I kept thinking that something's wrong with the painting. It can't be the trees. I just didn't go there in my mind. Let's keep it playing. So I start detailing the fence, and then I decide, no, something is wrong with this painting. I got to get rid of the fence. So I start getting rid of the fence, and then I'm like, okay, so it must be the water is why I don't like it. So I start changing the water. And I'm going through my mind in every single scenario that I can think of like what is going on with this painting? Why don't I like it anymore? I liked it an hour ago. Now I don't. So I'm doing all sorts of different things with the foreground here. And I'm just basically neglecting in my mind that it's the trees on the right that I don't like. And of course, now I'm adding a bigger tree on the left, thinking that this will help. This will help weigh out the composition back to the left, just sort of balance the painting out again. And this is where I start just getting ahead of myself. So here's where it's starting to go wrong for me again. Now what's happening is I've decided, okay, so maybe it's the creek that I don't like. So let's change that whole area into just one big body of water. Let's make it a lake. So I'm creating that into a lake, and I'm adding a reflection throughout that. I'm focused on the lake right now, not thinking about that tree on the right yet. Okay, now at this point, I remember thinking something's still not right. It's got to be the shoreline. Okay, so I start making all these little changes to the shoreline. So get rid of that, add this, get rid of it again. And this is where I realize, as I was changing the shoreline so much, and I started to shrink that right side down, I started to realize, okay, that right side is not going to work. So I start shrinking it down even more. Then I decide, okay, come to terms with the fact that that tree isn't going to work, and I start getting rid of the tree. And now I realize, oh man, if I would have just gotten rid of that tree in the first place, I would have saved a lot of time. I would have been very happy with it, but instead, this is where it led me to, which turned out to be a beautiful composition. So now I've saved it. Now I feel very confident in myself that this is what it's going to be. I'm going to be very happy with this composition. And I move forward now, and I start to add details in the foreground. You can see I'm adding a canoe, and I've no longer remained romantic about the idea of having a white-tailed deer, and I've decided that's not going to work for this scene. I'm going to do a camping scene, because of course that's what I was doing while I was away. So I was inspired to do a camping scene in the first place after I came back. And so that's where I took this painting to. Okay, so now I've switched to oil paint. And if you've watched me, I did this video. This is a new video I did on how to add a glow around the moon. I'll have a card pop up if you are interested in knowing how I did the glow. So I've switched to oil paint now. And you can see I've kept the foreground thus far pretty gray, because I didn't want to commit to a color yet. I didn't know what color I wanted to be, so I work it out in gray. When in doubt, use a grayscale, and then I'd wash color over the top later. So now I'm starting to wash color over the top. That's this oil paint going on, some darker blue. You can see that contrast is going in. Some darker blue on the horizon. I'm adding a tent now. And so now I start washing some color. Subtly, slowly, start adding some greens. I'm going to add a little more red to the canoe, some leaves to the trees up above. And I'm very happy. Now I'm adding a fire. So I'm adding all these elements to make it very attractive. And some smoke. It really came together in the end. So it was a long process to get here, but at this point, I'm just ecstatic about what happened with it. And here is the finished result. Some geese flying under the moon, beautiful camping scene. It just brought me back to the week that I had, the couple weeks that I had away from the studio. And so this really hit home for me in the end. And overall, I loved what happened with this painting. So there it is. Now you might be wondering why I would put myself through all this frustration, making all these changes to this painting to eventually get the result that I got here. And I know that a lot of you could tell me, Chuck, you should have avoided that by doing this instead. You should have used pencil first and drawn out the painting so that you didn't frustrate yourself with a composition you're unhappy with. Later in the process, you could have done this, you could have done that to avoid all of these mistakes. And I get that, and I understand that I could avoid such frustration in the process. But I also understand that my breakthrough, my best ideas typically come when I'm most frustrated in the process of a painting. I want to carve out a unique path in my artwork that's true to myself. And the only way that I can do that is to listen to myself. And so I encourage you guys to do the same, that even though I might give you a lot of techniques that you really enjoy using in your own paintings, if you follow a lot of my paintings, you might be really happy with doing that. And that's great. But to achieve something that's original, to achieve something that's really great, to achieve your personal greatness, you can't be listening to the voices around you. You really have to listen to yourself, and you just have to do whatever comes to mind as an artist and just follow that and pour yourself into that idea. Because that original idea, that idea that you have is yours. Nobody else has those ideas. And however you decide to paint, however you decide to create your art, nobody else has. Only you have that. And the only way that you can take that and achieve your personal greatness with that is by going all in and by just pushing through those obstacles and overcoming those frustrations along the way, because there will be frustrations when you're trying to achieve something that nobody else has really thought of before. When you're trying to work through a process, an idea that you have, there will be obstacles and it becomes very difficult. But that's the part of the process that I love the most, because I know that that portion of the process is where my breakthroughs come. It's most oftentimes when my best ideas come out of me and onto canvas. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're able to get some value out of this. Please leave any comments. I would love to hear what you thought about this issue as well. And if you have any new insight to share, advice for fellow artists, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to read them all and be happy to join the discussion. Please check out my free print giveaway as well as my eBay auctions and website. All of those links are in the description below. I auction off all the paintings I do here on the videos through my eBay, so please check that out. Thanks again so much for watching. We'll see you next time.